Good evening,
Recording
everyone.
in progress.
This is the regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council. It's Monday, August 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. Now, we're returning from closed session. There are no reportable actions. Before we begin, please note that all public meetings will be recorded. When a participant logs in via the computer or calls in to join the meeting, their name and/or phone number will be visible to all participants. Unless you are providing public comment, your audio will be muted and your video will be disabled. Persons wishing to be audience members to the meeting may do so anonymously. Anonymous participants, however, will not be recognized for public comment. Persons who seek to bypass the city's host controls will be dropped and blocked from the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation. Madam City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamada,
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Here.
Councilmember Santinez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton,
Here.
Mayor Coops.
Here. At this time, we will be given the invocation by Councilmember Victor Sanchez. Immediately following the Pledge of Allegiance, Joel Hockman of Public Safety will be presenting. Please stand with me.
Dear Father, thank you for every seat that has been filled here today, for each mind and heart that fills the presence of this room. We thank you. Only you truly know what we are setting out to accomplish here in the great city of Bellflower. We have an idea, a vision, hints, and daily instructions. We have talents, abilities, and the time to work. However, only you can see in perfect details the end of every beginning, every project, every season, every life. Nothing is ever in vain, for even mistakes and missteps are used for good. Bless this meeting today, all those present, as well as all those that live, all the lives of those we will encounter afterward. Ready us to make every moment count. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Good evening, everybody. I believe we're going to have an image of our great flag on the screen. There it is. Please place your right hand on your heart and join me in saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman and Councilmember Victor Sanchez. At this time, we begin our City Council announcements, and I'll start with the Bellflower Chamber of Commerce invites businesses, service clubs, and the community to join their monthly morning mingle. They will take place Tuesday, August 31st from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. For more information, please call the Bellflower Chamber of Commerce. They can be found at 562-867-1744. Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dunton.
Thank you, Mayor. To combat significant financial challenges brought on by the pandemic, the LA County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs has announced the campaign of Get Ahead LA, which seeks to guide LA County residents into financial resources they need to reach their financial goals. Through Get Ahead LA, county residents can find important resources to help manage their unique financial challenges. Get Ahead LA provides residents with free resources such as debit management, wealth building, housing stability, and more. Get Ahead LA is a free online service which is available at getaheadla.org, or you can just call 1-800-593-8222. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dunton. Councilmember Raymond Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, first off, let's say good evening, Bellflower. Okay, we have begun our redistricting process. The redistricting process occurs every 10 years following the release of the census results. It is an opportunity to withdraw district lines based on population changes, indicated in the census at the state, county, and again, local levels. We would like to hear from our residents. We would like would you like your district boundaries to remain the same, or do you have suggested changes? Residents can submit maps, of their own and get involved in the process. For more information, you can visit our redistricting website at www.drawbellflower.org. Email redistricting@bellflower.org, or contact the city clerk's office at 562-804-1424, and that'd be extension 2222. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Amata. Councilmember Victor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Bellflower. The Southeast LA County Workforce Development Board has teamed up to host a job fair next Tuesday, August the 31st, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Paramount Park Community Center, located at 14400 Paramount Boulevard in the city of Paramount. Bring your resume in hand and be prepared to interview on the spot. For more details about the event, please contact Ben Sandoval at 562-484-5012 or Barbara Crownson at 562-634-3980. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Councilmember Sonny Santillanes.
Thank you, Mayor. The state of California's COVID-19 rent relief program is still available for California renters and their landlords who have been impacted by COVID-19. The program has been revised to cover 100% of rental and utility arrears payments and prospective rent to qualified households. For more information, please visit the state's website at housingiskey.com or call the Housing is Key COVID-19 assistance line at 1-833-422-4255. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Santillanes. At this time, Los Angeles County Assessor Jeffrey Prang will be providing an informational presentation for Bellflower residents and the Bellflower City Council. Mr. Prang was elected in 2014 as the 27th Assessor for the County of Los Angeles and was re-elected in 2018. Assessor Prang, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. It's great to be with you tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to join you this evening and to share some important information about the Office of the Assessor and how it impacts the city of Bellflower. I always like to visit with city councils, knowing that this information that we have is often very valuable to you. It's also information I think that your members of the public would also find useful as well. And sometimes the major media doesn't cover the work of the Office of the Assessor, so I rely on my friends and local officials to spread the information that people need to have. I always like to begin my remarks when I speak to members of the public by explaining not only what the assessor does, but oftentimes, as importantly, what the assessor does not do. I do not collect taxes. I'm often called the tax assessor, but that's not part of my responsibility. There's another guy who collects taxes. He's got a very intuitive title. He's called the tax collector. So the title of tax assessor is actually a conflation of two separate offices. However, that being said, I am one of three elected officials in the county, the other two being much better known than me, and that's the sheriff and the district attorney. I administer a department of about 1,300 employees who are located in 6 offices throughout the county. We're the largest local property assessment agency in the United States, and we're responsible for establishing the value for over 2.5 million real property parcels and business assessments annually, which this year were valued at over $1.7 trillion. In many ways, the assessor is the fiscal engine of local government. And I always like to say to anyone who will listen, that in a lot of ways, the assessor is the most important local government agency because no other local government agency can do its job until I've done mine. And if I don't do my job completely and thoroughly, then property tax revenues that rightfully should be collected and invested in those vital public services instead are left on the table. As you can see on your screen, the assessor has a symbiotic relationship with several departments that each own a different piece of the property tax administrative system, primarily the auditor controller, as well as the treasurer tax collector. And the way it works is When my office receives a copy of a deed from the registrar recorder or a building permit from, for example, the city of Bellflower, we then determine the value of that property. The auditor controller is the one who tells you how much you owe, and the treasurer tax collector mails the bills and collects the payments. The valuation of county property is important because it generates revenues for local governments, cities, school districts, county government. It pays for those services that we all rely upon, such as libraries, public hospitals, parks, and roads. My primary responsibility as assessor is the production of the annual assessment roll, which is essentially the inventory of all property assessments in the county. And the roll serves a number of important functions. First, obviously, it's the basis for the property tax system, but it's also an important planning document for local government which they use to prepare their budgets in anticipation of property tax revenue. And it also serves as an important economic indicator, giving some insight as to the health of the real estate market. This year's 2021 assessment roll was completed on June 30th. We work on a fiscal year. And I'm happy to report that property values in the county continue to grow despite the recession caused by COVID-19. This year's assessment roll represents the 11th consecutive year of countywide growth since the 2008 to 2010 recession, and will generate over $17 billion in property tax revenues. Property values grew by $62.9 billion. That's a 3.7% increase in the county over the previous year. While it's not as strong growth as we've experienced in recent years, last year, which was well over 6%, it still reflects reasonably strong real estate market despite the challenges from the pandemic. To give you an idea of what's going on locally, I've included a table here that includes the property value growth percentages for both Bellflower as well as the county on average. And as you can see, Bellflower exactly matched the county growth. And I did put some statistics in there about the number of homes, apartments, and commercial properties in the city. Again, despite COVID and the economic recession that continues to accompany it, real estate fared reasonably well. In Bellflower, the median sales price for a single family home, not including condos, rose at 10.5% year over year in July. And our current data shows that the median sales price for a single family home is $650,000. Home values rose dramatically countywide over the last year as we witnessed a flood of buyers compete in a very competitive market where inventory was very low. Low inventory and low mortgage rates seem to be the biggest drivers to that dramatic increase in housing costs. As you can see here, the median sales price in Bellflower is a little bit less than it is countywide. Home values increased 10.5% in Bellflower over the last year. On the other end of the spectrum, we did see businesses that were hurt by the pandemic, especially office and retail space, as well as hotels that struggled to maintain operations because of the restrictions placed on businesses for health and safety reasons. Our records show that retail vacancy rate in Bellflower market area is about 5%. It has been for the course of the last year. That's anticipated to increase, at least in the near term. The average retail rental rates are among the lowest rents that we've seen for retail space in the greater LA at $26 per square foot. Hotels, as you can imagine, had particularly rough as occupancy rates reached some of the lowest levels we've ever witnessed during the height of the pandemic. Industrial warehouse spaces were not too adversely affected because the shift in business models that witnessed a lot of growth in online shopping, and a lot of industrial warehouse space was consumed to satisfy those needs. In Bellflower, the office market vacancy rate is currently at 6.4%, well below the metro average. Because a lot of businesses, small businesses in particular, restaurants, retail, stores, gyms, and hotels experienced a dramatic decline in business, a lot of their taxable business properties, such as machinery, furniture, and equipment, went unused, and as a result, may have experienced a reduction in value. My office proactively provided property tax relief to over 47,000 small businesses countywide to reflect the impacts of COVID. And as a result, the proactive reductions reduced the total assessed value countywide by $210 million. In Bellflower, we proactively reduced the personal property assessments of 474 businesses out of a total of 960 businesses that pay business property taxes. That represents about 45% of all business property in the city, or approximately $1.3 million in value reductions. Let me change topics for a second to discuss about a new law that I know is going to be important to homeowners. That's Proposition 19. It was passed by the voters last fall. It amends Proposition 13, and it does two primary things. The first thing it does, the one that was most popular with voters, is that it allows a homeowner who's over 55 years of age, severely disabled, or the victim of a natural disaster to transfer their property tax base with them when they move and sell their home and buy a new one. It expands previous benefits under the previous law, and it now allows a qualified homeowner to buy a home anywhere in the state, to transfer their tax base with them up to 3 times, and it allows you to transfer that tax base to a home of any value, more expensive or less expensive. The second component deals with the transfer of property between family members, specifically between parents and children. And this part was not as well known during the campaign and is causing a bit of concern. So under Prop 19, the only property that your children, or in some cases your grandchildren, can inherit along with the property tax base is your primary residence. No other property now qualifies. And secondly, in order for the child to inherit that property and the tax base, they must make that home their primary residence within 1 year of the transfer and file a homeowner's exemption. Prop 19 also places a limit on the value of the primary residence and the tax base that your children can inherit. Generally speaking, if the home is worth less than $1 million, your kids can inherit the property and there'll be no reassessment. But if the property exceeds $1 million, there will be a new tax rate, and it will be a blended of the inherited rate plus a market rate for that part of the value over $1 million. We're struggling with this law right now because it went into effect as of April 1st. There's a lot of ambiguities and deficiencies in the law. Usually ballot measures are quickly followed by legislation to clarify those ambiguities. We're still waiting for that legislation to be passed, so we don't have a lot of answers to questions that people have about when moving and buying a new home or transferring property to their children. I'm hoping that legislation will be adopted soon. In the meantime, if there's questions about Prop 19, we've created a special webpage dedicated to Prop 19 with a lot of information and resources to help you understand those portions of the law that we have clarity on at the moment. The last thing I want to mention is a way for people in Bellflower to save money on their property taxes. A lot of folks don't know that my office manages an array of property tax savings programs for seniors, veterans, the disabled, victims of natural disasters, nonprofit organizations, to name a few. Last year, we provided taxpayers with approximately $650 million in savings through these various exemptions and exclusions. And what I want to highlight tonight is the homeowner's exemption. It's our most accessible program, and it's available to anybody who owns their home and occupies it as their principal residence as of January 1st. It will allow me to lower your assessed value by $7,000, which will save you $70 a year annually on your property tax bill. I know that's not a lot, but it is a savings benefit that's available. And we estimate that about a third of all county homeowners do not apply for this exemption, primarily because they simply don't know about it. And as a result, about $30 million in savings goes unredeemed annually. In Bellflower, the number of eligible homeowners who don't claim it is even higher, 40%. 4 out of 10 homeowners who qualify for the homeowner exemptions are not applying for it. It's very easy. It's a one-time application. All you need to do is download the form from our website and mail it in. You only have to do it once, and it sticks with you on an annual basis as long as you're in the home. This is an area where I'm hoping that maybe we can work with the City of Bellflower, your public information office, to help get this information to those thousands of homeowners who are not yet taking advantage of this savings program, especially during a recession when a lot of people are on fixed incomes or unemployed and could use that savings. So that pretty much wraps up my update and the introduction of my office. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I want to encourage everybody to visit my website and sign up for our monthly newsletter, which has an array of useful information for anybody who owns property. I appreciate your time and attention. And please remember, my office is happy to serve as a resource for the City of Bellflower and its residents and any concerns that you may have. Thank you so much for the opportunity to visit with you tonight. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Assessor Prang, for taking the time to meet with us this evening. And I'm going to present your offer for questions from my City Council people here and see if they've got any.
I do.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dutton has a question for you.
Mr. Prang, my question is regarding the homeowner's exemption. Was that set with the original Proposition 13, or is that an assessor
It's-
amount?
It's set by the legislature, and unfortunately, the current homeowner's exemption was established, I believe, in 1970, when homes were about $40,000. So it used to be a bigger part of your savings. They haven't changed it since then. I think you might agree with me. That's probably time to revisit that and
Yeah,
increase that homeowner's exemption.
That was my point. You picked it off. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ever asked that question, but I've only been a homeowner for 40 years, so I know it's always been $7,000.
The good thing about the homeowner's exemption is it saves money for homeowners. It does not come out of the city budget. It does come out of Sacramento's budget, so they're probably going to be shy about doing anything that reduces their revenues.
Yeah, I guess if it ever got looked at or changed or a different amount, it probably should be a consumer price index attached to it.
They should minimally do that.
Yeah.
Even if they're not going to increase it, at least put a CPI on
Yeah.
it, so it will keep the times.
Okay,
But
no,
thank you for your question.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, and thank you for all you do in the presentation tonight and answering my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Anybody else got questions of the assessor? All right. Councilmember Raymond Hamada will ask you a question.
Yes, Mr. Prang, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Councilman.
Yes. I would say you're, again, still our favorite tax collector anyway. No, just kidding. But
Assessor.
yeah, I know. It's just- he always has that joke in every presentation, so I'm always good with that. We always like to kid him, and he's good about it. Again, during this COVID, pandemic, are you faced with a lot of questionable reassessments? Are you dealing with a lot of that?
No, because Proposition 13 is very specific about how assessments are done. We only reassess property when there's a change in ownership, like a sale or
Right.
adding or deleting a deed. And then we do an arm's length market analysis. The market determines what the assessment will be. So very difficult to, would be very difficult to manipulate those assessments. And we think they're pretty reflective of what the market is and where they should be on those occasions where we do reassess property.
Again, even with the commercial properties, are you?
So commercial properties are we are proactively looking at the impact of the recession on commercial property. We believe that we are lowering the assessed values on hotels, which were negatively impacted. I've always indicated that we've lowered the assessment on business property for 47,000 small businesses throughout the county. If you're a gym and you have this equipment that you pay taxes on, and it's not being used, that is a reduction in value that's entitled to tax relief. If you're a commercial building that probably changed hands in the last 5 years, more or less, and you housed restaurants and retail stores that were closed, your property may have had a negative impact, and we will lower those assessments on a temporary basis to provide property tax relief.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Sonny Santinez, Councilman, would like to ask you a question.
Thank
Sure.
you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening again, Mr. Frank. Thank you so much for your presentation. First of all, I want to remind you, I think the last time, you came here during one of our car shows,
Right.
and there's one more coming up, so I put it in your calendar very soon.
I'll be there.
Next month, September 25th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My question is on the homeowner's exemption. I was shocked when you said about 40% are not being claimed in Bellflower. Is there a way that you can assist us in trying to help our homeowners get educated on this? So if you can have your
Yes.
staff give us some kind of ideas on how we can promote
So-
this, because there's so much money left on the table.
So we've actually done a couple things. One, we can work with you to put the information on your website. If you have a newsletter that you send to residents, we could provide content that you can put in a newsletter. A couple cities, La Puente and Linwood, we provided them the list of homeowners that we think qualify for the homeowners exemption. And those cities did a direct mail piece to those homeowners and saying, we think you qualify for the homeless exemption. Here's the form, fill it out.
Oh, great. That will be helpful, I think. So I'm going to ask our city manager to reach out to your staff so they can
Thanks.
work with your staff and getting this settled. So again, thank you
I
so
think-
much.
I think anybody who's got the opportunity to save money would be very grateful to hear that information.
Absolutely, especially
Very
during these trying times.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Victor Sanchez, Councilman, ready for a question for you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a quick comment. Mr. Prank, first of all, it was a pleasure meeting you in Downey, and thank you for taking our invitation and coming out here and doing a presentation. It was very informative, and I also definitely want to echo those questions that Councilmember Dutton mentioned, or Mayor Pro Temp Dutton, and the comment made by Councilmember Sonny Inez. I think those are two very valuable things, and I'm sure we'll be partnering with you on that. So thank you, sir, and again, thank you for the information this evening.
Thank you, Councilman. It was good to see you down in Downey the other day, and appreciate your kind reception to my presentation this evening.
Yes, this is Mayor Coops again. Mr. Prang, if I remember right, didn't you show a Lincoln at the car show?
Mustang.
Or Mustang?
was-
What was
it
it?
must-
Ford
it
product?
was- I was going to say, I didn't think it was a Lincoln, but it was a Mustang, yes.
Mustang.
All right.
Yes.
It was- it was- it was- it was-
Underfed Lincoln was it?
it was- it was- it was a Ford.
Or was it? I don't know if you are aware or not, but one of our claims to fame, or maybe not, is that Proposition 13 was put together by three guys here in Bellflower: Howard Jarvis, Paul Gann, and our mayor, James Earl Cristo, back in the early 70s. And they pounded that out in the Acapulco Motel here on Bellflower Boulevard. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's the nexus for Proposition 13.
I was not aware of that. That's a really interesting piece of history. Thank you for sharing that with me.
All right, but again, I want to thank you for taking the time to work with us, and don't be a stranger. We'll certainly look forward to see you at the car show if you're able, and you're always welcome to come in and make a presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Great to be with you. Have a great evening.
Have a good evening. All right, Mr. Stewart, public comments.
Yeah, this is the time set aside for the public to address the city council on matters not listed on the agenda. Those wishing to speak on an agenda item must utilize one of the methods listed on page 2 of the agenda. You will be given 3 minutes to address the city council. Attempts to provide comment at times not designated on the agenda may result in the city dropping you from the meeting.
If you'd like to speak, please use the raised hand feature. If by computer, it appears under the Participants tab. If by phone app, it will appear under the More button at the bottom right-hand corner. Or if by telephone, press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. You will be called upon in the order received. You can then unmute your microphone so that you can provide your comments. Madam City Clerk, have we anybody in the queue?
Mayor, I have a raised hand for Todd Pfeiffer. I've got the timer up on the screen, Mr. Pfeiffer. When you're ready, you may begin.
Good evening, Mayor Coops, City Council members, members of the community, city staff. My name is Dr. Todd Pfeiffer. I'm the Development Director for Kingdom Causes Bellflower. As a longtime partner of the City of Bellflower, we wanted to take this time to share some updates. Kingdom Causes Bellflower is in our 20th year. We are excited to have the opportunity to continue serving this community. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, the Our Place Housing Solutions team has continued to provide street outreach, case management, rental assistance, and support to at-risk individuals and families in our community. So far in 2021, the team has placed 14 households in permanent housing, processed 45 referrals to the Bellflower Shelter, and provided rental assistance for 27 families. We are also grateful that the Good Soil Industries program was able to stay open and working throughout the entire pandemic. For those who do not know our organization, Good Soil Industries is a second chance jobs program that provides hard to hire individuals with an opportunity to work their way out of poverty. Participants continue to rotate through the program, and we have seen some tremendous stories of personal transformation. Thanks to the support of the community and the city over the years, along with the stability that has been built over time, the future is bright for Good Soil Industries. Our Margaret's House transitional housing program has gone through some exciting updates, including a revamped kitchen, a remodeled bathroom, and fresh paint throughout the house. This program serves at-risk families in our community and has been a vital part of helping our neighbors reestablish long-term housing. Last but certainly not least, so far in 2021, Kingdom Causes Bellflower has been the grateful recipient of 10 different grants from various foundations and other funders. Let me close by saying that we are incredibly thankful for the support from the city of Bellflower over the years and the opportunity to collaborate on community development. Thank you very much for your time, for your service to this community, and we look forward to providing more updates soon.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Dr. Pfeiffer. Anyone else like to give testimony?
Mayor, I'll give the public a couple moments to utilize the feature. Mayor, I'm not seeing any further raised hands at this time.
Thank you very much. Well, moving on. Mr. Stewart, 11A.
Yeah, this is consideration of possible action to continue the public hearing relative to the fiscal year 2020-2021 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, or the CAPER, to the September 13th, 2021 City Council meeting. What staff is asking tonight is that you take action only to continue the public hearing to September 13th, 2021, and or alternatively discuss and take other action related to this item.
All right, so you know what staff is asking. I'm looking for a motion to support.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, to continue the public hearing to September 13th, 2021.
Second.
Oh,
All right, so we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dunton, supported by Councilmember Raymond Hamada. Please poll the council.
Councilmember Hamada?
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez?
aye.
Councilmember Santinas?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton?
Aye.
Mayor Coops?
Aye. Consideration item 13A, Mr. Stewart.
This is consideration of possible action regarding requests from Bahram Badier on behalf of the Church of the Pharaoh de Vida Iglesia Cristiana, a charitable institution, to waive the conditional use permit CUP filing fee for the institution of the facility located at 9740 Park Street. And I believe we have Ms. Corpus, or a member of her staff, to make the staff report for you tonight.
Mr. Stewart and members of the council, our senior planner, Jason Clark, will give the presentation this evening. I'll just give it a, there we go.
We want to postpone this. Beth, do you want to postpone this 2 more weeks? Are we ready?
I heard a door slam. Somebody left.
We're ready. We're just trying to get the PowerPoint up. And if not, we can just do a verbal presentation.
While the
Can you guys hear me and see the screen now?
Yeah, you know, Mr. Clark, the facts of this matter are pretty simple. Let's just go ahead and do the verbal presentation on this and move forward.
The fee waiver request is to waive the CUP fee, which is $3,144. The timeline for the request, May 21st, 2018. Planning Commission adopted resolution PC 17-11, approving conditional use permit case number CU 1708 that allowed for an expansion to an existing religious facility. On May 21st, 2019, the CUP expired per the BMC and the resolution. because construction was not commenced. On April 27, 2021, plans were submitted for building plan check review. The plans show that the project reduced the square footage to 978 square feet. There is a correction in the staff report. The staff report shows April 21st, and it should be April 27th. On May 12, 2021, the applicant was informed that the CUP was expired and a new CUP would be required. On July 12th and 14th, CUP waiver request was received and the justification request was also received. The BMC allows City Council to waive the filing fee at its discretion in a case of a charitable institution. CUP filing fee reimburses the city for costs in processing the revised plans, reviewing the CUP application, preparing the staff report and agenda, conducting the planning commission meeting, and other similar matters. The staff's recommendation that City Council deny the waiver request for a CUP filing fee, or two, alternatively discuss and take other action related to this item. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
Questions of staff? Anybody have any questions they want to ask of staff?
Just a quick one.
Okay.
Hey, Jason, the reduction down to 978 square feet, does that include what appears to be a second level in the addition? It looks like I don't know if it's a mezzanine or it's like a storage area, because on the section drawing, it shows a figure up there. So it's just
No, that's existing. It's just a ground floor addition.
It's just a ground floor. All right.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sanchez?
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. Mr. Clark, in the staff report, you included two examples, two cases wherein one request was granted and one request was previously denied. I wasn't here in 2010, but can you tell me, or can you tell us what was the justification for granting that waiver way back in 2010?
2010 was for St. John Bosco at 13640 Bellflower Boulevard. It was for a sign permit, and that waiver was approved because the project did not change. So the same project that got approved was the same project that got extended.
Okay. So in terms of staff time, there was no additional staff time expended to extend the CUP at the time.
Correct.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Anyone else have any questions of staff before I open up to the public? All right, public comments. Does anyone out there want to comment on this?
Mayor, I'm not seeing any raised hands at this time.
Thank you. All right, council colleagues, open for discussion or a motion, whatever you think is the best.
Let me just make a comment, Mr. Mayor. I kind of sympathize with the applicant because they're suffering financial hardship in this case, but I kind of find it difficult to waive this because I don't want to start the precedent here of waiving those fees. That's why I asked the question, what's different between this application versus the one that was granted, and it's totally different. So that's my comment. Again, I really sympathize with the applicant, but once we open this, nothing will prevent any other applicant to say we have financial hardship. And I think we're gonna be in a very difficult situation if that happens. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your comments.
And Mayor,
Yes, sir.
that's pretty much similar to my thought process. It's not only the institutions that this brings, it's other waiving fees throughout the whole planning department. We've not done that in the past, and letting things go. We have things written for a reason, and we have staff time involved, and everybody's hurting at the moment. But I totally understand the sense of why they're asking, but to do business in the future, I wouldn't. I would just recommend denying the waiver.
Anybody else like to give their opinion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I concur with my colleagues. I think this sets precedents where we probably don't want to get into for the long term. I could see the difference between the educational institution and, again, there was a prior lookup denial for a church. I do recognize, again, the applicant's request. However, I think looks they need to further manage their project and keep tabs on it if they're going to continue with it. So at this point, I see going along with the staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Anybody else like to give their thoughts?
Mr. Mayor, I'll chime in as well. I concur with my colleagues in this one. They paid the fees in 2017. The project has changed, and we have to maintain course on this as well. We don't want to set a precedent either. I understand, and I thank Councilmember Santinez for asking the why St. John Bosco was granted. I wanted to know the same to that statement, and that makes sense. The project stayed the same. This is a new project. It has to be reviewed again. It's a staff's time, so I concur with everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor, I'll make a motion
Go right
to
ahead.
deny the waiver to request the conditional use permit filing fees.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dunton, supported by Councilmember Sonny Sanyanez. Please poll the council.
Councilmember Hamada?
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton?
Aye.
Mayor Coops?
Aye.
Mr.
Item
Mayor,
14,
Before we get to item 14,
okay.
there's an oversight. We had a public communication sent to us earlier today via email from Mr. Ken Letourneau that we wanted to make sure was included in the record that we received the public thing, and I just wanted to announce that to the city council. So that was it. Now we can move on 14. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for that, Mr. Stewart. So we'll move on with the consent calendar. Any recusal or conflicts? Does anyone have any conflicts or any of this evening's consent calendar items? If not, are there any items the council members wish to pull for separate discussion or consideration?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item 14G.
So noted. Anything else from any of the council members that likes to be pulled forward for discussion? All right, you have the floor, Mr. Santinez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Lilonga, are you online?
I am online.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Lilonga, thank you so much for your staff report on this project. And thank you and your staff for working on this. And I think we're getting close to a good solution here. Reading the staff report, I'm really appreciative of what we're trying to do for our city. I think this basically will address the issue of the digital divide by providing our residents with opportunity to access the internet. So I like the proposal. I like the way it was written, but something got me interested when you mentioned that there's a possibility of using the American Rescue Plan Act to provide our residents with this access points. And I think that's one of the things that is being pushed by the federal rescue plan is water infrastructure and specifically internet access, which is really good. So in looking at the way the revenue is going to be coming back to the city, it shows that for year 3, we will get 10%, and then going forward, 20%. So my question to you is, if we were to invest upfront and provide more of these access points to our residents, which to me is a win-win situation. More residents will be able to access the internet. Will that allow us to share in the advertising, the revenue, much earlier than year 3?
Councilmember Santa Ynez, great question. And that is potentially correct. A lot depends on how fast the deployment gets done and how soon they are able to install all the equipment throughout the city, and how fast we get people on board using the system, which this could help speed up. So a great point that you make. By getting these access points out there, we could speed up the utilization of the network and therefore reach the required capacity that the contractor is suggesting. 15% of the population is what's needed, as well as the full deployment. So I can have Keith Alexis from ICCN comment further on that, but the agreement doesn't specifically outline something that says the sooner they get full deployment and 15%, the sooner payback begins. So that could be an amendment that we can make to this agreement. But if Keith Alexis has anything to add to that, I'd welcome him coming on and unmuting himself and making any comments.
Yes, hi there. This is Keith Alexis. Thank you, everyone, for your time this afternoon. Specifically to your question, council member, and to yours as well, Jim. Mr. De La Longa is absolutely correct. Our interest here is that the sooner we get to the investment timeline of paying off for the network, we will definitely be able to start the revenue share with the city. So if we're able to get people on the network faster, then yes, we would also increase or decrease the amount of time that it takes to get to that 24 months, and therefore begin the revenue share even sooner.
Okay, wonderful. It seems like we are in agreement here. So my recommendation is to ask the city manager to revise the agreement with the approval of our city attorney, to conform with what we just discussed, to allow us to gain some revenue as early as possible without waiting for 2 years.
Can do. We understand completely where you're at, so I think the recommendation tonight would be to amend the recommendation slightly to allow us to make those changes into it. So recommend it as amended by City Council, and we'll go from there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. De La Longa.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hearing no one else had any recusals or conflicts, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar with item 14G as amended.
Second.
Right, the motion is made by City Council Member Sonny Santinez, supported by City Council Member Raymond Hamada. Please poll the council.
Councilmember Hamada?
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Aye.
Councilmember Santa Ynez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton?
Aye.
Mayor Coops?
Aye. Council comments. Mr. Hamada, you can start us off this evening.
Well, I spent most of the last 2 weeks sort of under the weather, so I have no comment.
All right. How about you, Mr. Raymond Dutton?
I made it another 2 weeks from the last council meeting with not being sick.
All right, we'll call that a win. Mr. Sanyanez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to share some good news here. As your representative to the Joint Powers Insurance Authority, the executive committee, which I'm a member of, just authorized the refund to the cities of the excess pool payment that was done way back in the 90s. And because the money was not used, it's basically a self-insurance, and the JPI is doing well. So as part of allocation, our city is getting $200,000 plus interest, amounting to $332,000, which will be paid back over 5 years. I think the first check will be cut in the next 2 weeks, amounting to $66,000. So thank you so much for the city for contributing that money, and we're getting it back. Plus earnings.
I was waiting for you to say it's been increased by $66,000.
No,
but you're
no,
going to
no.
get money back.
a year. That's a year for 5 years.
Well, thank you for your leadership for allowing that to occur.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Councilmember Victor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick note on the external side, as one of the reps on Contract Cities and a member on the legislative committee, I just want to share with you all that the committee has dedicated and is putting some efforts into educating the community about SB 9 and its impacts that it would have, and trying to do some efforts to hopefully get that vetoed. But we'll see what happens with that. I just wanted to pass that along. And then I want to end on a positive note here at home. I just want to thank staff, all of staff, and for all the hard work that's going on over to really improve some of our vacant lots. And I specifically want to bring some light to Artesia and Clark. And I saw that the Kentucky style fencing went up, and it's looking good. And I'm sure that iron fence or the chain link will come down soon, and I think it's going to really help improve that corner. So just want to thank staff and everyone else for all their work they're doing. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Victor Sanchez. So I have nothing to offer that. We've had a good 2 weeks, and we're looking forward to another meeting, and that'll be happening Monday, September 13th, 2021, 5:30 p.m. This meeting is adjourned at 7:55.